Hey gang, we are in Bonita, California, around San Diego, and we are at the Glen Abbey Memorial Park, and I'm going to take a walk to the grave of a little 3-year-old girl. A very sad story happened to her back in 1949. Now, we've done a story like this of a little girl who fell down a copper mine shaft. And it's a similar story, except it was a water well out here, but not here, not in Bonita, but it was north near, in Los Angeles area, San Marino. Her name was Kathy Fiscus, and beautiful little girl. She was out playing with her older sister, and they were in this field, and her cousin, and they were just having a good time. It was April 8th of 1949 in the afternoon, and there was something horrific that was going to be waiting for her, and that was an open hole in the grass. It was a water pipe, a vertical water pipe that was left open, abandoned. It had a wood cover on it. It was a well that was drilled in 1909 for the citrus field. You know, it went down about 100 feet, I think 94 feet. And she's running along in the high grass, and feet first goes right down this hole. Well, the other little ones, they, of course, heard and saw what happened, so they ran home, and the mother was the first on the scene, her name Alice, and she yelled down to the hole. She said, "Kathy, are you all right?" And she heard the voice from way down there, 94 feet down. "Yes, Mommy." Well, it didn't take long before people came, police, fire, and then contractors, cranes, all kinds of help was arriving, and everyone was trying to get her out. Of course, trying to think of all kinds of different creative ways. Now, one thing they tried, of course, was put a rope down to her. And actually, she grabbed the rope, but she was unable to hold on as they tried to pull her up. Now, you can imagine, 3 years old, if only you could say, "Hey, put it around under your arms, tie a knot." I mean, 3 years old. And if she wasn't 3 years old, little enough, it was a 14-inch hole shaft pipe. She may not have fit and fallen all the way through, all the way down to the bottom. So nothing was working. And finally, after almost 2 days, they decided that they were going to drill a parallel shaft, which they did. I think it was 52 hours later that they got down there, and they were able to punch through the guy, but sadly she was dead. I guess when they had pulled her up, the rope, she did pull up a little bit, but then she fell deeper in, and she may have turned over, because they never heard her voice after that. And when they found her body, she was twisted in such a way, maybe upside down, so she either drowned or she suffocated. And they had to get a rope down and gently pull up and kind of work her body around until they could pull her up and retrieve her. Now, what's unbelievable is the irony is that her father worked for the same company that in 1909 drilled the hole to begin with. And he was on a subcommittee, if you can believe this, testifying that holes like this should be covered and capped with concrete. Now, What kind of karma is that? That's unbelievable. That's what he got. That's what they got. Just horrible. Well, the family was devastated, of course, as you can expect. But they were very grateful for everything that everybody did. And there, on the spot, it was all covered by TV, which in 1949 was a new medium. This was really the first event to be kind of an event like this to be covered live. But Mom and Dad composed themselves and they wrote a note. And they read it to the crowd, the huge crowd that had gathered. And they said, "There's nothing we can say to fully thank you, the many people who have helped us so selflessly. Many of these people have gone home to much needed rest. Our heartfelt gratitude goes out to them for the many sacrifices beyond belief. Thank you. Thank you very much." Well, we've arrived at her grave here. A forgotten grave. There are no flowers, no remembrances, just this beautiful epitaph. One little girl who united the world for a moment. August 21st, 1945, April 8th, 1949. Well, we remember you, Catherine. You will not be forgotten. Well, this was a big story back in the time, and like many big stories, you can see. I want to thank Dustin Burrell for sharing this story with me. He didn't forget. He found little Kathy. The hole that was capped is located on the athletic field of San Marino High School. It's not marked. And in the weeks that passed after the ordeal, Kathy's mother received letters of condolence from nearly every country in the world. One of the country singers at the time, Jimmy Osborne, he wrote and released a song called "The Death of Little Kathy Fiscus." Sold more than 1 million copies, and it reached the country music Billboard Top 10. Jimmy donated half the earnings from the recording to the family. And of course, there was change in legislation. This resulted in the Kathy Fiscus laws, which require all abandoned wells to be capped and filled throughout the United States at the time. But although the law was put in place, unfortunately, there was little action because it would repeat itself over and over. On March 17, 1967, in Texas, 18-month-old Jessa McClure, very famous story, fell in the well on October 14th, 1987. Thank God, rescued alive, covered on TV like this, second-by-second drama, happy endings, but there were a lot of unhappy endings. Just like I said, it wasn't just the water holes, but it was mines, like the copper mine of little Ruth Ann Miller. I told the story. She, like little Kathy, didn't make it. I'll put that link up. But even today, there are still, most of them are capped now, the mines especially, but there's still dangers for the little ones. So rest in peace, little Catherine. Little Catherine Fiscus, you are not forgotten.